There was a quiet moment, so subtle that it barely registered in the world around you, when your feelings slipped through the cracks of your silence, without you even noticing. Not through declarations or dramatic admissions, but through the smallest tremor in your presence, whenever that person appeared in your thoughts. It showed in the way your breath paused for a fraction too long, in the way your responses softened, in the emotions you thought you had buried but never truly did. And somehow, without explanation, they sensed it. Not as a guess, not as uncertainty, but as something unmistakably real, like recognizing a familiar melody in a crowded room. From that instant, nothing remained entirely unchanged between them. Something unspoken began to linger in the space you both occupied, subtle yet persistent. They tried, at first, to carry on as usual, to treat the day like any other, filling their hours with routine conversations, obligations, and passing distractions. Yet beneath it all, their awareness kept returning to you. There was a strange comfort in it too, a quiet reassurance in discovering that your inner world had been echoing something similar to theirs. It unsettled them, not in fear, but in the realization that emotional distance had already been crossed long before either of you acknowledged it. And that realization didn't fade quickly. It stayed, quietly reshaping the way they looked at everything involving you, as if every small detail now carried a deeper meaning they could no longer ignore. There was no turning back to the version of reality where none of this had been felt, because something irreversible had already taken root between both of you, not because they never hoped for it, but because they had convinced themselves it was impossible. They spent so much time preparing for distance that they forgot how overwhelming closeness could feel when it finally becomes real. And now, every ordinary thing around them feels delayed, unimportant, unfinished. Something important is waiting for you in this story, because the moment they understood your feelings, they stopped pretending they had unlimited time. That illusion disappeared instantly. Suddenly, every postponed message mattered. Every canceled plan felt meaningless. Every distraction became noise. They began replaying memories you probably thought they forgot. The way your voice softened during certain conversations, the hidden emotion behind your silence, the tiny changes in your energy whenever they pulled away emotionally. It all makes sense to them now. Every confusing moment became clear at once, like lights turning on in a room they had wandered through blindly for far too long. And here is what no one around them fully understands. They are not rushing because of pressure. They are rushing because something inside them woke up. There is a difference. Pressure fades, but awakening changes everything. The realization that your feelings are genuine has touched a place within them that had been guarded for longer than anyone knows. Even they are surprised by the intensity of what they feel now. Their heartbeat carries urgency. Their thoughts move faster. Sleep has become strange because their mind keeps imagining what happens next, what it would feel like to finally stand in front of you without fear interrupting the moment. Listen carefully, because this next part matters deeply. They are beginning to understand that the connection between you was never built on surface-level attention. It survived silence. It survived confusion. It survived moments when both of you almost walked away emotionally, just to protect yourselves. And yet somehow, the feeling remained, quietly, patiently, like a light hidden beneath layers of doubt. That realization has changed the direction of their choices more than they expected. Plans they once considered important suddenly feel temporary. Places they intended to go no longer hold the same meaning. Even the people around them can sense their energy shifting, though they cannot explain why. Stay till the end, because there is a reason this energy feels so intense right now. They are beginning to move differently, not recklessly, not impulsively, but intentionally. The kind of intention that only appears when someone finally stops running from what their heart has known for a very long time. There is a growing certainty inside them that your feelings were not random, and if your emotions are real, then perhaps this connection deserves honesty instead of hesitation. That thought alone has changed the atmosphere around their life. Their priorities are rearranging themselves quietly, almost without permission. And still, they have not fully revealed everything to you yet. That is the part creating this emotional tension around them. Because once someone realizes they are truly loved, silence becomes heavier than words. Every delayed conversation begins to feel unfinished. Every missed opportunity echoes louder in their mind. They keep imagining what they would say if they suddenly appeared before you without warning. Would they finally admit how often they think about you? Would they tell you about the nights they replayed your conversations, searching for hidden meaning? Would they confess that they tried to move on emotionally and failed every single time because your presence remained in their spirit long after the moment ended? There is another layer to this story that you cannot fully see yet. The moment they discovered your true feelings, they also realized how much you had been carrying alone. That realization touched them deeply. They began seeing your strength differently. What once looked like calmness now feels like emotional courage to them. What once seemed distant now feels protective, careful, sincere. And instead of pushing them away, that understanding pulled them closer emotionally than before. Sometimes people only recognize the depth of love after they understand how quietly it was being protected. Right now, while you continue living your normal routines, something extraordinary is unfolding behind the scenes. Their inner world is changing direction in real time. The future they imagined without you suddenly feels incomplete, and that feeling keeps growing stronger each day. They are questioning delays, reconsidering decisions, rearranging priorities, not because anyone forced them to, but because your truth reached their heart at exactly the moment they could no longer ignore their own. And just before this chapter closes, there is something you need to hear carefully. The energy around this connection no longer feels uncertain to them. Something inside them has started to settle into a quiet kind of understanding, as if the noise of doubt is finally fading into the background. They are beginning to see that what connects you both is not ordinary or temporary, but something rare, delicate, and unexpectedly profound. This awareness is shifting their choices in ways they never anticipated, pulling them away from paths they once considered certain, and towards something they cannot easily define, but also cannot ignore. Moments that once felt routine now carry a strange weight, as if everything beneath the surface is rearranging itself without permission. Their focus drifts easily, conversations blur, and even simple daily tasks lose their grip because thoughts of you keep resurfacing with quiet persistence. What surprises them most is how naturally you have taken hold of their inner world, replacing uncertainty with something closer to emotional clarity. They once guarded themselves carefully, measuring every interaction with caution, but that version of them is quietly dissolving as honesty becomes harder to resist. There is no longer a desire to hide behind uncertainty. Instead, there is a growing pull towards something real, even if it feels unfamiliar and overwhelming. And in this unfolding silence between realization and action, they find themselves standing at the edge of a choice that will quietly redefine everything they thought they understood about connection, timing, and the way two lives can unexpectedly begin to align. What once felt uncertain is now becoming a turning point, subtle yet irreversible, where emotion replaces hesitation and truth begins to guide every step forward without needing to be forced or explained. Only felt and quietly understood in deeper, unspoken emotional ways, now emerging slowly, quietly, but permanently. They are no longer trying to convince themselves to move on emotionally, because now they understand why they never truly could. Don't skip, because there is a hidden moment in all of this that changed everything for them. It happened late at night, when the world around them became still enough for honesty to rise to the surface. No distractions, no noise, just silence and your memory. They sat there, replaying moments they once overlooked. Tiny details returned with unexpected intensity. The way your energy shifted when they pulled away emotionally. The unspoken care hidden inside your patience. The emotional restraint you carried even while your heart was quietly speaking through every action. And suddenly, they realized something that shook them deeply. You were loving them even during the moments when they doubted themselves the most. That realization created an emotional urgency they can no longer control. Now every hour feels slower to them. Every delay feels heavier. They keep wondering how much time was wasted pretending this connection was less meaningful than it truly is. And perhaps the most powerful part of all this is that they are no longer focused on protecting their pride. They are focused on reaching you emotionally before another misunderstanding creates distance again. Because once someone experiences the rare comfort of knowing they are truly wanted, not for appearances, not for convenience, but for who they genuinely are, it becomes impossible to return to emotional emptiness. Something important is waiting for you, because they are beginning to see signs of you everywhere now. Songs suddenly sound different. Random places remind them of conversations with you. Even ordinary moments carry your presence unexpectedly. It is not obsession, it is emotional awakening, the kind that arrives when the heart finally catches up with what the soul understood long ago. And the more they resist it, the stronger it becomes. Your energy lingers around them in ways they cannot logically explain. There are moments when they stop completely in the middle of their day just to think about what they truly want. And for the first time in a long while, the answer feels simple. Peace. Honesty. You. Not the version of you they imagined from a distance, but the real you. The one who stayed emotionally sincere, even while hiding feelings out of fear of being misunderstood. That authenticity touched them more deeply than dramatic gestures ever could. Because deep down, they know how rare it is to find someone whose feelings remain steady in a world where emotions change so quickly. And now, they are beginning to move toward you emotionally, with less hesitation than before. You may not fully see it yet, but the shift has already started. Their responses are changing. Their attention toward you is becoming more intentional. Even their silence feels different now, because it is no longer filled with uncertainty, it is filled with anticipation. They are thinking carefully about timing, about words, about how to approach this connection without damaging the fragile emotional truth that finally surfaced between you both. Stay till the end, because what they are realizing right now is something they never admitted openly before. They are not afraid of loving you. They are afraid of how deeply they already do. That truth arrived suddenly, almost too suddenly for them to process. One moment they believed they still had emotional control, and the next, they found themselves imagining futures that include your presence naturally. Small futures, quiet futures, meaningful futures. The kind built on emotional safety instead of emotional games. And those thoughts scare them only because they feel real, more real than anything else they have tried distracting themselves with. There is also a growing emotional regret within them now. Not toxic regret, but gentle sadness over the distance that existed when both hearts were secretly feeling the same thing. They keep wondering how many moments could have unfolded differently if honesty had arrived sooner. How many nights both of you spent missing each other while pretending to remain emotionally composed. And that realization has made them determined not to waste another opportunity created by fate. Right now, while you are unaware of many things happening behind the scenes, they are quietly reorganizing their emotional world around the possibility of you. Some plans are already being delayed. Some distractions are losing importance. Some bonds begin to lose their emotional weight, not because they were never real, but because the heart starts recognizing a different direction it quietly wants to follow. As that awareness grows stronger, stepping back becomes less natural, almost uncomfortable, as if resisting something already written within them. Yet there is still something important left to understand before this phase reaches its end. Their movement toward you isn't driven by the sudden discovery of your emotions. It's driven by what your honesty unlocked inside them. Your openness didn't push them forward. It removed something they had been holding back from within themselves. And now, even in the stillness of night, their mind keeps circling a question they can no longer avoid. What changes when two people finally stop underestimating what exists between them? A quiet stillness has settled in their emotions, but it isn't peace in the usual sense. It carries momentum, subtle yet undeniable, the kind that appears when someone realizes they are standing at a turning point they can't ignore anymore. You linger in their thoughts more often than they expected. Ordinary moments seem to drift back toward your presence without effort, and beneath it all, there's a growing pull that keeps repeating the same inner direction. Move closer, not away. That inner pull has grown too steady to dismiss. What makes it even more unexpected is how your truth reached them without pressure. There was no chasing, no emotional storm, no attempt to force a response, only sincerity held with patience, quiet but deeply felt, leaving an imprint that now refuses to fade. That affected them more deeply than dramatic words ever could. Because in a world where so many emotions feel temporary, yours felt steady, safe, real. And once they recognized that, their entire emotional perspective began changing from the inside out. Don't skip, because something delicate is unfolding here, something that even they are struggling to fully understand. They thought discovering your feelings would make things easier immediately, but instead, it opened a deeper emotional door within them, a door filled with truths they had postponed for far too long. Suddenly they are questioning every moment they acted distant, every time they ignored their own emotions, every excuse they created to avoid vulnerability. It is as though your love became a mirror, and for the first time, they are truly seeing themselves clearly. There was a recent moment, quiet, almost ordinary, when everything hit them harder than before. Someone around them mentioned moving forward in life, making plans, settling into predictable routines, and instead of feeling inspired, they felt empty, because all those plans suddenly seemed incomplete without emotional connection, without meaning, without you somewhere inside that picture. That realization stayed with them long after the conversation ended, and ever since then, they have not been able to return to the version of themselves that once pretended they could emotionally detach from this bond. Something important is waiting for you, because they are beginning to understand that what exists between you is not based on fantasy. It is built from recognition, the rare feeling of being emotionally understood without needing endless explanation. They think about the moments when you notice things nobody else noticed about them, the times your silence carried more comfort than loud reassurance from others ever did, the way your presence softened parts of them they normally kept hidden from the world. Those memories are no longer small to them now, they feel enormous. And slowly, almost carefully, they are preparing themselves emotionally to close the distance between you, not in a rushed or reckless way, but in a real way, a sincere way, because now they know something they can never unknow once discovered. Your heart was never playing with theirs. Stay till the end, because the emotional shift happening inside them right now is reaching a turning point. Their fears are losing power, not completely, but enough for courage to finally rise above hesitation. And courage changes people. Courage makes them reconsider conversations they once avoided. Courage makes them want to explain things they previously buried inside silence. Courage makes them stop caring about appearing emotionally unaffected. They no longer want to look untouched by this connection, because the truth is, they have been deeply affected for a very long time. There are nights when they sit alone and imagine the exact moment they finally see you again. They wonder whether your eyes will reveal the emotions you tried so hard to hide. They wonder if the air between you will immediately feel different now that the truth is no longer invisible. And more than anything, they wonder if you still have space in your heart for them after all the delays, confusion, and emotional distance that happened before clarity arrived. Because despite everything, they know they made you wait emotionally. That awareness humbles them, it softens them, and perhaps for the first time in their life, they are understanding how precious, genuine affection really is. Not attention, not attraction, real affection. The kind that remains patient even while uncertain. The kind that quietly hopes without demanding guarantees. The kind your heart carried for them long before they were emotionally ready to recognize it. And now, every path they imagined without you feels strangely colorless. That is why they keep changing plans internally. That is why certain goals no longer excite them the same way. That is why people around them notice distraction in their eyes without understanding the real reason behind it. Their heart has already started moving toward you emotionally, even before their actions fully catch up. Listen carefully, because this next truth matters deeply. They are no longer asking themselves whether they feel something for you. They are asking themselves how they allowed themselves to hide it for so long. That question follows them everywhere now, during quiet mornings, during crowded conversations, during moments when they try focusing on ordinary responsibilities. Your presence keeps returning to the center of their mind, not because they are trying to obsess over you, but because their soul finally stopped resisting what their heart has known all along, and somewhere inside them, a decision is forming, a quiet one, a powerful one. The kind of decision that changes the direction of everything afterward. Some bonds slowly reveal themselves as unfinished chapters in a story that refuses to end. There comes a moment when certain people begin to understand that what they share was never meant to fade into silence. What once felt distant starts to feel unavoidable, as if life is quietly pulling two paths back toward each other. Across ordinary days, something unseen is being rebuilt. Memories, realizations, and emotions forming a bridge neither can ignore. Even while they try to move forward, their thoughts keep circling back to the same presence. They once believed distance would soften everything, that time would eventually dull what they felt. But instead, the connection lingered, surviving quietly in the smallest, most ordinary moments of life. And now, something inside them is shifting again, as though the idea of return is no longer far away. There is no loud realization, no dramatic turning point. Only a steady emotional pull that grows stronger with each passing hour. In moments of stillness, they imagine what it would feel like to finally stand face to face without hesitation or distance. What once felt impossible now feels like something quietly approaching, reshaping their expectations of what comes next. And even if nothing is said aloud yet, everything within them already leans toward that eventual meeting. Because some connections do not dissolve with time, they simply wait for the right moment to become real again, no matter how long it takes. And in that quiet certainty, they begin to understand that what is meant to return will always find its way back. Nothing truly lost when it still lives in the heart, quietly awaiting its return. One day, again, always home. In random thoughts, in unexpected memories, in the strange comfort your presence brought them even from afar. And now that they know your feelings are real too, everything they once tried to suppress is rising all at once. Don't skip, because something incredibly emotional is happening behind their calm exterior. They are beginning to feel the weight of all the words left unsaid between you. Every almost conversation, every interrupted moment, every feeling hidden behind careful restraint, it all lingers around them now like unfinished music waiting for the final note. And perhaps the hardest part for them is realizing how close they came to losing this connection simply because fear kept delaying honesty. That realization changed them, not temporarily, completely. They are softer now when they think about you, more open emotionally, more aware of how deeply your energy affected their life even before they fully admitted it to themselves. And the closer they get to understanding the depth of this bond, the less interested they become in pretending to live without it. Something important is waiting for you because they are no longer looking at the future the same way. Before, they made plans based on logic alone. Responsibilities, expectations, appearances. But now, emotion has entered the picture, and genuine emotion changes priorities quietly but powerfully. Suddenly, what once seemed urgent feels meaningless compared to emotional peace, compared to connection, compared to the possibility of finally experiencing something real instead of endlessly wondering what could have been. And you need to know this: they have started imagining conversations with you that feel incredibly personal, not dramatic conversations, honest ones, the kind where voices soften naturally because the truth finally feels safe enough to exist openly. They imagine telling you how often they thought about reaching out but stopped themselves at the last second. They imagine admitting how your absence affected them more deeply than they ever showed. They imagine finally letting you see the side of them that stayed hidden behind caution for far too long. Stay till the end, because what they are feeling now is bigger than temporary emotion. This is recognition of a bond that continued pulling them back no matter how much time passed or how much distance existed between you. And once someone recognizes that kind of connection, they cannot return to pretending it is ordinary. Lately, even their routines feel different. Familiar places no longer distract them the way they used to. Conversations with others feel shorter because their mind keeps drifting somewhere else, toward one thought, one feeling, one possibility they can no longer ignore. You. It is almost as if their spirit has already started moving toward you before their physical steps fully catch up. And honestly, that realization both comforts and overwhelms them at the same time. Because love becomes very real the moment someone stops fantasizing about possibilities and starts longing for presence. That is where they are now, longing for presence, not for perfection, not for fantasy, just for the simple, powerful feeling of being near you honestly. And perhaps, what affects them most deeply is realizing how naturally you became part of their emotional world. They did not plan for this connection. They did not expect your energy to matter this much. But slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, you became the person their heart searched for during difficult moments. The person their mind returned to after long days. The person whose happiness began affecting their own emotions in ways they never intended. That truth humbles them more than you know. And tonight, there is another realization settling heavily into their heart. You never forced this connection. You simply remained genuine. In a world filled with noise, performance, and temporary attention, your sincerity stood out without trying to. That sincerity became unforgettable to them. It created a sense of calm where confusion once seemed inevitable. A quiet, emotional steadiness replacing what used to feel uncertain and heavy. Instead of pressure, there is now a strange clarity forming, as if something within them has stopped resisting what has always been there beneath the surface. What once felt easy to dismiss no longer fades in the same way, and the idea of letting go begins to feel less like relief and more like avoidance of something meaningful. In recent moments, subtle memories return without warning, small reminders that surface in ordinary silence, bringing an unexpected warmth that is difficult to ignore. A familiar tone, a sense of presence, even the echo of shared attention becomes something that lingers longer than before. These impressions no longer feel distant or fragmented. They feel immediate, almost as if they belong to the present rather than the past. With each passing day, hesitation weakens, replaced by a growing recognition that avoidance requires more effort than honesty ever would. There is a quiet shift where internal resistance gives way to acceptance, not sudden, but steady, reshaping how they interpret what they feel. Moments of unexpected joy appear without explanation, often triggered by simple recollections that arrive uninvited yet feel deeply personal. What once was pushed aside now returns with persistence, not overwhelming, but consistent, like something refusing to be forgotten. And beneath it all, a realization settles in that what they were searching for externally may have been present in one meaningful connection all along. Now, silence feels different, no longer empty but filled with direction, as though something important is finally moving toward understanding and resolution within them right now gently.